Welcome to the History Veteran UK. Pretty much does what it says on the tin. So today, for those of you who've been following my videos, as promised, I'm going to do a video today on the Merchant Navy and a couple of events that happened during the Second World War and an event that happened much later, only about 14 years back, I think, 2011. So I just want to show you where I am first of all. So if I turn so I am perched on top of the White Cliffs of Dover. The view isn't quite as good as it could be. There's the sea down there, a long way down, probably 300 or 400 feet. And that there is Folkestone in the distance. And if you can make out the white building, that's the Hotel Bursting. Well, we're on Abbott's Cliff. And there's a structure. I think that was an observation point during the war. But I'm stood right in front of one of the many sound mirrors or acoustic mirrors that dot the southern and northeastern coasts. They were put in from about 1916 onwards, sort of halfway through the First World War. I think there was some device at the back of it, but they could pick up aircraft for about 15 miles away, so they're quite effective. So today I want to talk about an event that happened on the 18th of March 1944, but to get there we need to discuss the events of the 9th of March, some 9 days before. So we're in the Indian Ocean and the steamship Behar, which is an Indian name, and the ship was owned by the Hain Shipping Steamship Company, and it was moving zinc to Fremantle from Aden, unescorted in the Indian Ocean. So we're talking 1944. The Japanese are quite prominent in that area, as well as the Germans. And it's the three warships, the Chikuma, the Aobe and the Tone, that were escorted through the Sumatran Straits into the Indian Ocean to attack merchant shipping. And on the 9th of March, the ship Tone spotted the SS Behar and gave chase. I can find no other ships that were with the Tone, so I think she was unescorted well. She was a heavy battle cruiser, the Japanese Navy. She chased the Tone down, and despite the captain of the Behar trying to make a getaway, really, unfortunately the ship was damaged and was sunk beneath him. But they took 108 prisoners and they put them on the Tone, and the captain was the name of I've got his name written down, actually. I want to get it. So Captain Mayazumi. So he sent a signal to Vice Admiral Sakanju that he'd sunk the ship and captured the prisoners, and Sakanju was less than pleased, I can tell you. And he ordered that, well, first of all, he was a bit annoyed that the ship had been sunk. Zinc was an expensive alloy and would have helped Japan in their war effort greatly. And he was also displeased with the prisoners, and he ordered that they all be some of them be put ashore and that the others were disposed of. Now Mayazumi didn't want to do this. He was opposed to the killings of the sailors, to the extent that he was almost willing to give up his command. But that would have meant certain death for him. He would have had to have committed harry-carry. But what he did was he took the ship to Java, the Tone, and he put approximately a third ashore, including a petty officer Griffiths, and he's the one that gave the statements about the capture of the sinking of the Behar and the capture of the prisoners. The remaining prisoners, so anywhere between 65 and 100 people, were taken out by the Tone, and they were badly beaten, held in a pretty much a chain locker in the ship. Very hot out in the Indian Ocean, so they were suffering there. Beaten badly, and on the 18th of March, despite Maezumi's efforts, the remaining prisoners were beheaded. It's known as the Behar massacre, and this was part of the Indian raid of 44. So if you want to look that up, the story is quite interesting. I'm just bringing you the snippet really of the Behar massacre, and I'd never heard of it, and when I read it, I was quite appalled. One of my nan's cousins, I think, it wasn't her brother, but it's certainly her cousin, was in the Far East and was taken a prisoner of war and really never recovered. Came back, was quite sickly and died shortly after. Atrocious conditions. And then for me to read this and find out that anywhere between 65 and 100 men were beheaded. Now I know it wasn't uncommon for the Japanese to do that. So please look that one up. And if anyone's got any more information on it, because I could only find a certain clip, I found a little bit on Wikipedia. But if anyone can point me in the direction of anything else, I'll be glad to know. So the second thing I want to talk to you about is July the 15th, 1943, again in the Indian Ocean, and midway between Madagascar and the island of Reunion, the Isle of Reunion, which is only a short way away from Mauritius. These are two completely different islands, may I tell you. So, the SS Empire Lake steamship, a collier it was taking coal from Durban in South Africa to Bombay in India. And it was attacked on the 15th of July 1943 by U-181 that was captained by Captain Lieutenant, German's not great as you all know, Wolfgang Luth. Now Luth had joined the Navy in the 30s, early 30s, 1933 I think, and during the period of 1942 to 1943 he sank 22 ships. I don't think all of them were merchantmen. And for that he received the Knight's Cross to the Iron Cross with oak leaves, swords and diamonds, which is nice. And so he was unfortunately shot by a German sentry in Flensburg. So justice prevailed as far as I'm concerned. Because on board the SS Empire Lake were 38 men. And of those 38, 7 survived. But one of those was 19-year-old John Harry Morgan of Broadstairs in Kent. His parents were George and Ethel, and they were my grandparents. So John Harry Morgan was my uncle. I never met him. Obviously, he died in 1943, and my dad never met him either because he was born in 45. So whilst I was looking into the Merchant Navy, and I came across the Behar massacre, but this was going to be my original story. So, and I can't tell you how much of a mark that left on the family. I remember speaking to my Uncle Sid about it, who died a short while ago, and this was years back, and he was telling me how that affected certainly the grandfather. Anyway, as we move on, and you know, if you want to look these up, certainly the Behar massacre. I'm sure you don't want to look up my Uncle John, but the Behar massacre, certainly have a look at that one. So now I want to take you sort of almost 60 years into the future, from the end of the war, 1945, to 2011. And a merchantman by the name of Atlantic Trader was again in the Indian Ocean. And it's a very, very nice place to have been at any stage, does it? And a young ex-Royal Marine by the name of Davies was on board the Atlantic Trader as protection from Somali pirates. Now, he'd been a teacher, he'd been a Royal Marine, and after he left the Marines, he was a teacher and worked for a company called Skillforce, which was a military charity. But in 2011, the Atlantic Trader was, they stopped at the Isle of Reunion in the Indian Ocean for a bit of R&R. Carl went ashore with a couple of crewmates, and they got split up during the evening, and the two of the crew went back to the ship. But sadly, Carl was found 2 weeks later dead at the bottom of a ravine. Now, he'd been murdered, and there was a trial in 2017, I believe, but 2 years later the sentence was overturned, and the person responsible, I can't remember his name's not important, Cole Davis is the name that I'm really concerned about. And but the guy was acquitted, so nobody has actually been charged with this offence or convicted, you know, and got a life imprisonment. The Isle of Reunion, as I'm sure some of you might know, is a French colony, and they couldn't find their backside with both hands, even if they had a map. So it was rather disappointing, and I knew Carl quite well, and I worked with him when we were at Skillforce. And he was more than just a colleague, he was a friend as well, and it was a very sad story, and the family were devastated, and I know that they campaigned still to attempt to get a resolution to this. But when it's sort of, 6,000-7,000 miles away, it's very difficult. Certainly when, you know, it's a little island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, they're not going to really give it a priority. But in my own personal opinion, that is. I could be wrong. There could be someone out there fighting Carl's corner. But I just thought I wanted to bring you that one, and it just so happened because he'd become a merchantman, and it's a dangerous job being a merchantman. And to those ones I've just mentioned, before I get into some more details, it is now the 6th of November, and we will remember them on Sunday and on the 11th as well. But just a few facts about the Merchant Navy, also known as the Merchant Service or the Mercantile Marine. During the First World War, over 3,000 ships were sunk. And it was during, when I was doing my research, I knew a little bit about the Merchant Navy, of course, everyone does, and they fly under the red ensign. Was usually when these, when the ships are recorded as sunk, or any other information I could find, they always refer to the tonnage. They might mention in passing that 27 crew lost their lives, but usually they mention the tonnage, and I found that a little bit strange, so I wanted to make sure I get this over. So over 3,000 ships were lost during the First World War, with a loss of just over 17,000 lives, of which 12,000 have no known grave. So they're buried at sea or lost to the sea. And in the Second World War, the exact figure eludes me, but please look it up. I think it was 4,600 almost ships were lost. I don't know what the tonnage is. I'm really not interested. That's an Admiralty thing. That's something that the big thinkers with the, you know, the black box thinkers or the blue sky thinkers, whatever. And 36,000 sailors, merchantmen, lost their lives, of which 24,000, over 24,000, have no known grave. And those that have no known grave are remembered at the Tower Hill Memorial in London. And it sits on Tower Hill, actually, where the executions took place. Not sure that was at, but okay, it was a nice open space. And it's just in front of the Tower of London. John Harry Morgan is remembered on panel 42, SS Empire Lake. So if you're ever there and you come across it, you know, please show your respects, as I'm sure you would anyway. So, I won't be doing now one before, or I don't think I will, before remembrance. I've got shoes to polish and medals to polish and trousers to iron and that sort of thing. If you are enjoying my videos, please like and subscribe. It would help me grow, and I really appreciate your comments. I know it's been a couple of days before I did one. I had to go to my daughter's graduation. I'm very pleased we were as well. So, thanks for joining me on top of a very windy Abbott's Cliff between Dover and Folkestone. Until the next time, stay safe.